It's difficult to judge a player on a singular performance, especially in baseball. In one game, you can throw the first no-hitter of your career, and in the very next start, you throw your worst start of the season. This is exactly the case for Wade Miley. On May 7th, 2021, Wade Miley threw a no-hitter, the first of his career. But in his very next start, on May 14th, he gave up 8 runs in what was his worst start of the season. The point is that baseball is a game of highs and lows, and a player that knows this all too well is Michael A. Taylor. Today we are going to be looking at what is possibly the worst individual performance in modern baseball history and follow his path towards redemption. Taylor's career began in the 2009 draft. He actually wasn't a hyped up prospect heading into the draft, as the 18-year-old shortstop was drafted in the 6th round by the Washington Nationals. After a subpar first pro season in 2010, Taylor was told he would be moving from shortstop to center field. After a few more seasons in the minor leagues, Taylor made his debut in the second half of the 2014 season, entering the 2015 season as a top 50 prospect and billed as the Nationals center fielder of the future. Taylor was the Nationals starting center fielder on opening day. This Nationals team was seen by many as the NL East favorites. Unfortunately, this season was a disaster for the Nationals. As for Taylor, while his offensive production wasn't great, he was a solid defender. He had 2 notable highlights in 2015. On August 20th against the Rockies, Taylor hit a game-tying 2-run home run, a home run that was tracked at 492 feet, which made this the second longest home run of 2015. The second highlight was Taylor hitting an inside-the-park grand slam as the ball went under Yoenis Cespedes' glove. While this was counted as a bases-clearing single, I think it's more fun to call it an inside-the-park grand slam. Although, in a cruel twist of fate, almost the exact same thing happened to Taylor a few weeks later. However, this would be scored as an inside-the-park grand slam for another rookie outfielder. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the last time Taylor would have an error of this magnitude, but we'll get to that later. After a disappointing 2015 season for the Nationals, they were out for revenge in 2016. While the team itself was great, Taylor wasn't much better as he spent much of the season in AAA. However, his most notable performance of the year came on June 22nd, 2016. Taylor entered this game only a few days removed from his best performance of the year, his first career multi-home run game. If only he could see what would happen only a few days later. June 22nd, Nationals versus Dodgers. Taylor is in the leadoff spot. In his first at-bat, he struck out on a high fastball on only 4 pitches. In the top of the second, after a couple RBI doubles put the Nationals on top, the rally ended after another 4-pitch swinging strikeout by Taylor. After a game-tying home run by Corey Seager went over the glove of Taylor, and one plate appearance after Adrian Gonzalez made this catch, Taylor would strike out swinging again. This time on 6 pitches. Yeah, it was just one of those days. Well, his day would get worse, as in the 7th inning with runners in scoring position, Taylor would strike out swinging on 3 pitches. Then, in the top of the 9th, with the ability to extend the Nationals' lead for closer Sean Kelly, Taylor would strike out swinging on 5 pitches. 5 strikeouts. All of them were swinging strikeouts. In 2016, only 8 players, including Taylor, struck out 5 times in a game. Out of these 8 players, only 4 of them didn't reach base. However, of these 4 players, Taylor was the only player to be involved in a game where his team lost. And if you don't know what happens next, just watch.
Ground ball right by the diving Espinosa, and the ball goes through Taylor's legs. Puig is on his way. The relay is double clutch. Can you believe it?
So remember when I said baseball is a game of highs and lows? Well, Taylor's performance in this game is among the lowest of lows. This was no doubt the worst performance of Taylor's career. Unfortunately, this was only 3 days after his best performance in 2016. After this game, many placed this performance as one of the worst in baseball history. This is a difficult claim to prove. but it's hard to disagree. 5 swinging strikeouts and your error directly led to your team losing in walk-off fashion. That's a terrible day in the big leagues. So this means everything goes up from here, right? Well, yes, but not right away. After a disappointing sophomore season, Taylor began the 2017 season as a backup outfielder. However, a season-ending injury to Adam Eaton in late April thrusted Taylor back into the starting lineup. This would end up being Taylor's best season of his career, as his OPS and OPS Plus reached career highs. But it wasn't only the stats, it was the plays he made along the way. Exactly 2 years after Taylor's Inside the Park Grand Slam, Taylor did the exact same thing. He hit a line drive to the center fielder, who misplayed the ball, allowing Taylor to clear the bases and score. The difference is that unlike the single in 2015, this was scored as a grand slam. Taylor's performance in this game was actually the complete opposite of what happened against the Dodgers. In the 7th inning, after Rhys Hoskins put the Phillies in striking distance, Taylor threw out Nick Williams at home. And along with the grand slam, Taylor hit 3 more hits, including a triple that gave the Nationals an extra run of insurance. This was important as the Phillies scored 3 times in the top of the 9th, but Sean Doolittle would strike out every batter he faced to give the Nationals the win. So this was Taylor's redemption, right? What more could he do? Well, this grand slam wasn't even the most notable grand slam Taylor hit in 2017. Let's fast forward to the NLDS, specifically Game 4, Nationals versus Cubs. The Cubs are 1 win away from reaching the NLCS, while the Nationals, who haven't been in the NLCS since the franchise was in Montreal in 1981, were fighting to stay alive. On the back of a 12 strikeout performance by Steven Strasburg, the Nationals were winning by 1 run in the 8th. That was until Michael A. Taylor stepped up to the plate.
The kick and the pitch. Swing and a high fly ball. Right center field. Happ going back. Way back at the wall. He leaps and it's gone!
The Nationals would go on to win this game 5-0. Unfortunately, in Game 5, despite another great performance by Taylor that included a home run, the Nationals would lose the series. A series where it seemed like Taylor was the only Nationals hitter who was actually able to hit. Taylor has more than redeemed himself. But he wasn't done there. Let's skip the 2018 season and go straight to the 2019 NLDS. Game 7, Dodgers versus Nationals. We're back where it all started. Taylor didn't really do much offensively in this game as he only hit a single in the 5th, and it didn't lead to anything. So why are we here? Well, after the Dodgers led most of the game, the Nationals were able to tie the game in the 8th with back-to-back home runs. Then, in the top of the 10th, Howie Kendrick hit the second biggest home run of his life with a grand slam that put the Nationals on top by 4. But there's still a half inning to go. Nationals closer Sean Doolittle is given the task of shutting down the Dodgers. After a strikeout by AJ Pollock and a ground out by Max Muncy, the Nationals were 1 out away from their first NLCS since moving to DC.
Behind second, and that is going to be caught by Michael A. Taylor.
It has all come full circle. 4 years prior, Taylor's error in center field ensured a Dodger win. This diving catch ensured a Dodger loss. Redemption has been achieved. Fun fact, if you didn't notice, Howie Kendrick is involved in both of these scenarios, although one of these hits is a bit more significant than the other. The Nationals would head to the World Series, where not only Howie Kendrick solidified his status as a Nationals legend, in Game 2, Michael Taylor, in his only World Series plate appearance, hit a first-pitch home run, which is just the cherry on top. Taylor's final season with the Nationals came in 2020. After the season, he signed a 1-year deal with the Royals to be their starting center fielder in 2021. He is performing how you'd expect as he's just filling a role for a rebuilding team. He may be far from the high points of his career, but you have to admit that Taylor has had quite the eventful career. He's had a career arc that few come close to. So if you ever think about the 2019 Nationals run to the World Series, don't just think about the improbable odds or Kendrick's heroics. You have to recognize Michael A. Taylor's 4-year journey towards redemption. Baseball is a game of highs and lows, and players and fans learn to live with this fact. However, not everyone is able to redeem themselves in such a poetic way, or even at all. It's unlikely Taylor ever reaches the highs of his 2019 season, but that's not important. What matters is that these moments exist. Taylor's redemption story happened, and that's what will live on throughout baseball history. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks for watching.